Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Brahmanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupram Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chaitanya Charanam Voja Makarandali Hobaje Yesham Prasade Matrena Paramo Pyamaro Bhavet Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. So we're reading from I'll Build You a Temple. And we are at the part entitled Vrindavan, the final journey. And we're at the part in the book where Srila Prabhupada is very ill and very weak, and he's been drinking only milk and sustaining himself in that way. And his health was really not in the best condition, but he still wanted to go on parikram around Govardhan Hill, and he was asking his disciples, can we please organize this? But his disciples were very much concerned about Srila Prabhupada and his health, and they had asked this Kaviraj, this doctor, to come and speak with him, to see him and try to get him better. So now Srila Prabhupada, he gets a visitor, Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada said he's actually a Paramahamsa. He's a liberated, self-realized soul, always blissful, always absorbed in chanting and hearing Sri Krishna's holy names. And then his disciples were discussing with Srila Prabhupada, if we were to go out with you, Srila Prabhupada, on parikram, then they didn't think it would be a very good idea. They said the road is really terrible, and in this condition, it wouldn't be good for you. And they were saying, I can't understand. And they were trying to ask Srila Prabhupada not to go because his health was really not in good condition. But Prabhupada, although his health wasn't very good, he was still so accommodating. And he had invited Babaji Maharaj to take prasadam. And then he affectionately recites this verse, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi. So he's quoting a verse from the CC, Madhya Lila. The verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. Just a moment. And then in the purport there, Prabhupada explains that the moment is 1/11th of a second. Just that amount of time with a pure devotee, 1/11th of a second, and you can attain all success. And this is because such a devotee he's a tirtha, which means a place of crossing over. And Srila Prabhupada in the 4th canto of Bhagavatam, he goes into a few details about who is a tirtha, what is a tirtha, this place of crossing over. The pure devotee, he's containing all of the sacredness of the holy places within himself. So meeting such a person is more valuable than going to visit all the holy places. And it's described that actually when the devotee goes to such places, to sacred places, he purifies that space, because when we go there, we become unburdened, we relieve ourselves of our sinful reactions. And then it's described that the waters of the sacred places, although they are pure, they become a little bit burdened by our activities which are being purified. And then the pure devotee goes there, just by him touching the water or just by him touching a place, that place becomes purified again. So this is the potency of the pure devotee of the Lord. And we can see even in the case of Srila Prabhupada, how a tirtha is described to create sacred places as well. They purify so much that not even just the sacred places are purified, but they actually can create new sacred spaces. The space that they go to becomes a place of pilgrimage. And Srila Prabhupada, he went to New York. We could consider New York definitely, it's not a place of pilgrimage for a saintly person. But now it is, because Srila Prabhupada was there. We would go there to see where Srila Prabhupada began the mission of Krishna consciousness in the Western world. And Srila Prabhupada was here as well. He came here to Durban. And my Guru Maharaj, he has this picture of Srila Prabhupada walking on the beachfront, on the promenade. And one of my god brothers, he was looking at where is that exact place where Srila Prabhupada was walking, and they actually found that place. And that place now, it's a bit different, and they built a little pool there, so we were joking that now that's Prabhupada Kund. That is not an ordinary place. If we go and bathe there, that's where Prabhupada was walking. That's not an ordinary place anymore. So this is this is the Tirtha, this is Prabhupada, this is the pure devotee. And what's interesting is when Srila Prabhupada was asked, how many pure devotees are there in the world right now? He said, how many devotees are there in ISKCON? That's how many. So I guess it's up to us to decide or see who's the Tirtha, who's the pure devotee, but that's what Prabhupada said. One can attain all success if he associates with such a person. Okay, and then the devotees, they're asking Prabhupada, please don't go, please get better before we arrange for you to go on parikram. And then Srila Prabhupada, he says, all right. He agrees. And he says, I cannot refuse all your requests. And then Tamal Krishna says, but we also cannot refuse your request. And we will take you all over on Tirtha Yatra to all the places. Just that you should get a little stronger. So that Prabhupada should get a bit better before they take him. And we're seeing here how Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they're in so much anxiety. And they're telling Prabhupada, we're in so much anxiety about your health, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, no, I cannot put you in anxiety. You've done so much. You've suffered so much. For the preaching of Krishna consciousness, so I cannot put you into anxiety. So I shall do what you like. That struck me. I shall do what you like. This is Guru. We don't instruct Guru. We get instructions from Guru. But now Prabhupada is saying, I shall do what you like. And it's just kind of reminding me of the relationship that Mother Yashoda has with Krishna, that you can't tell God what to do, right? No, who are we to tell God what to do? But someone who is so dear to God like Mother Yashoda, she can tell God to do anytime because she loves him. So Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they love him so much that although he's Guru, he allows himself to be taken under their care and instructed by his disciples. That is the sweetness of the relationship. And many of his disciples describe how that relationship was there, that it wasn't always just that they would accept orders from Srila Prabhupada, but they would also be able to show that they cared. They cared so much for Prabhupada and asked him to take care of his health. And even many of our spiritual masters are also like that. They will take the advice of the disciple because they're reciprocating with the care that the disciple is giving. It's so sweet. And then the Kaviraj, he was so worried about Srila Prabhupada, this doctor. He didn't even sleep, he was so worried. And he would go into the jungle for about 4 or 5 hours just to look for roots and herbs to try and help Srila Prabhupada. So he was very sincere, and Srila Prabhupada really appreciated that. And now they're still making arrangements for the parikram, and Srila Prabhupada says, the other devotees can all go, but I cannot go, so that's okay. And then his disciples say, we'll go on your behalf. On your behalf. So even when we're doing service for Guru, we're serving on behalf of Guru, right? We're just instrumental in pleasing our spiritual master, in whatever activities he desires to perform. We're just trying to assist him with that. And what is that activity? It's preaching, it's chanting, it's deity worship, all of the processes of Krishna consciousness we're doing on behalf of Guru. So even when we go on parikram, that's on behalf of our spiritual masters. The next day, Prabhupada again brought up the subject of parikram. So he did agree, he said, okay, we're not going. And then again he brings it up. Hey, what about the parikram? Concerned, Tamal Krishna suggested once more that he wait until he got more strength. If you get a few days of strength, he advised, I have no objection to take you even tomorrow. I just would like to hear what the Kaviraj says. I really have a little faith in him. I mean, I have all faith in you, Srila Prabhupada. I have only a little faith in him, but I don't want to reject his advice as a doctor. This Kaviraj has given sound advice so far. So sometimes we have to take advice. My Guru Maharaj explained, like, how spiritual masters are there for helping us make spiritual advancement, but we can't go to our spiritual master when we have the flu, for example. If we're sick, then we have to go to a doctor because Guru doesn't have that field of knowledge, you know. He can pray to Krishna, definitely that's there, but sometimes other advice is needed, you know, and we should take the advice of someone who is qualified. But there, faith is needed as well. Like the principle of Ayurveda actually is that you heal according to faith. That's what my Guru Maharaj also said, that that's the major component of being healed, is that you have faith in the doctor and in the medicine. That's it. The principle is faith. And faith in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 is described as unflinching trust in something sublime. So sublime, that understanding that Krishna can work in such mysterious ways. He's so mysterious. Just look at what happened to Bulva Mangala Thakur, that he was so attached to this one lady, and actually she wasn't of good character, yet his spiritual master spoke through her. He said, if you were as attached to Krishna as you were to me, you'd be a pure devotee. So that was Guru speaking through her. Guru can he's not an ordinary person, and if we are a little sensitive to understanding that he can appear to us in many different ways, we have to be careful, of course. We can't just think, oh, this is Guru. We should use our intelligence, but we should also have faith that Krishna is assisting us in different ways through different people at different times. Because we're all just instrumental, ultimately. And then his disciples, they say that, we'll ask the Kaviraj if he thinks we can take you tomorrow for a short parikram around the temple. Reflecting on the recent day's events, Tamal Krishna said, Srila Prabhupada, the way you deal with us simply deepens our attachment every moment. And now we're at a section called Final Pastimes. The evening concluded nicely for the devotees in the room. We stayed, and there was a quiet kirtan as different devotees, including me, massaged different parts of Prabhupada's body. The sons are cooperating to serve the father, Tamal Krishna commented. As I massaged Srila Prabhupada's right foot, I felt small particles of dust. So this is Giriraj Maharaj speaking now. I felt small particles of dust, which were magnified in my consciousness. I thought, this is the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee. I told Tamal Krishna that I felt so whole and complete and satisfied, like never before in my life. And he conveyed the same into Prabhupada's ear. All the devotees were attracted to Prabhupada, as we hear about all the creatures of Vrindavan being attracted to Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a beautiful mood of harmony. That night, at around midnight, I was awakened on the roof of the Gurukul building. Prabhupada is calling you, a devotee alerted me. So many thoughts raced through my mind. Was Prabhupada leaving? Was something wrong? I rushed to Prabhupada's room, painfully aware that any word he uttered could be his last. When I entered, he was lying in an internal state of consciousness. I offered my obeisances, sat close beside him, and waited in silence. After a few minutes, he whispered, "Do you think this movement will go on after I leave?" I was surprised that he had called me in the middle of the night to ask me this, But I replied, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada, as long as the devotees are sincere and go on chanting Hare Krishna and following the regulative principles, the movement will be successful." Shri Radharanath ki jai, Shri Giraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He was silent for a moment. I leaned in, straining to hear. He spoke just one word, organization. Paused and then said, organization and intelligence. I was startled. Prabhupada's words were packed with meaning. Yes, I realized. We had to be sincere and chant our 16 rounds and follow the regulative principles, but we were meant to do more than just maintain our own spiritual lives. We were meant to preach, to expand the movement and increase the number of devotees. And to do that required both organization and intelligence. So I was listening to one of Prabhupada's disciples, Radhakund Mataji, the other day, and she said, actually, just thinking, I'm going to practice spiritual life and go back to Godhead, that's material consciousness. But if we think, I'm going to practice spiritual life and I'm going to share what I've been given and then go back to Godhead and try and bring as many people back with me, that's spiritual consciousness. That's spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, it's just material, practicing just for ourselves. It's actually material consciousness. And here Prabhupada is stressing organization and intelligence. So organization, that requires good leadership. And then earlier in the book, in the last class, we were reading how Prabhupada describes that a good leader is the person who follows their guru. You can only be a leader if you're following and not otherwise. So this is the leadership we require in ISKCON, that we do fortunately have in ISKCON. Yes, and intelligence. Intelligence. So Shruta Kirti Prabhu was asking Prabhupada, how do we know the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle? Because we want to keep the principles the same. The principles are important, we need them. But we can make adjustments according to time, place, and circumstance. And Prabhupada said that requires intelligence. It just requires intelligence. Like Srila Prabhupada, he introduced, or he allowed women to stay in the ashram, and that was an adjustment. The principle is preach Krishna consciousness, and the adjustment was allow women to stay in the ashram. And that was because he saw that, he monitored or he observed how Western people think, and he saw, like in America, how people relate to one another, and so he made that adjustment according to time, place, and circumstance. But with anything, with any adjustment being made, if we can't trust our own intelligence, and Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj says this, that we should go to someone whose intelligence we can trust. Like, for example, principle of distributing books. So the principle is distribute books, but how we do it, that's dependent on time, place, and circumstance. So the adjustments are there. Intelligence is required. The endeavor to spread Krishna consciousness in an intelligent, organized way was our service to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as much as we're chanting the holy names and following the regulative principles. Is there anything else? Prabhupada asked. Was there anything else I wanted to say? Within my heart, I was crying out, Srila Prabhupada, please stay with us. Don't leave. My heart was screaming, but I simply said, no, Srila Prabhupada, offered my obeisances, and left. And now the devotees start planning another tour because Srila Prabhupada so much wants to go on parikram. So their plan was that they would visit different places, but there would be two parties, and the one party would go ahead and they would set up like a little camp for Srila Prabhupada and welcome him into the camp and make sure that everything there was comfortable for him. And then when Srila Prabhupada came, he could be facilitated there, and then that first party would go on and start another camp at the next place, and so on. So that was their plan. And then they were saying, well, Srila Prabhupada thought they could go in bullock carts. But then his disciples, they were saying, if we were to take you in a bullock cart, people would accuse us of being negligent of you, and it would reflect very badly upon our society. They would accuse us how we have taken our spiritual master. So they want to avoid being criticized in that way. I mean, in the beginning, like when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was being driven around in a limousine, then they were being criticized for being too opulent. You know, there was this idea that a sadhu is supposed to be so austere, they can't be, you know, driving around in a car like this. And even Srila Prabhupada was asked many times, why are your disciples driving you around in such a nice car? You're a sadhu, you're renounced. So they're introducing this principle of yukta vairagya, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was there in India, it was during a time when there weren't so many cars, there wasn't so much opulence. So he introduced this principle. And I guess gradually, as people began to understand that we should be treating Guru as good as God, because he's the representation of Krishna himself, then they would be criticized in a different way. Our society would be criticized for not taking care of such a person, of being negligent. So the devotees wanted to avoid that and make sure that that people understood that they were taking care of their spiritual master. And in Tamil, Krishna says, you've always preached that we should do things in a modern way, just appropriately. And in Swarab Damodar adds, and use for Krishna whatever is available. And another thing is that if we were to just give up everything and live under a tree, which devotees would be happy to do, then not so many people would be very much attracted to trying to practice Krishna consciousness. You know, it's a principle of preaching as well, that if we can invite people to a beautiful temple, then they're more inclined to come. They think, oh yes, let me come and see this beautiful temple, Sri Sri Radharanath. But if we were to say, yes, we have a deity here underneath a beautiful tree, then people would think, no thanks. I need my house, I need my car, I need my job. So then people can see that, oh, the devotees, they're doing the same thing as me, it's just that their consciousness is different. They're happy, and then they want that. They want to see what is it that the devotees do that makes them so happy, that they're doing the same thing as me, but there's something special there, there's something different. So that's why we also practice yukta vairagya for preaching. And then the devotees, they're planning book distribution and sankirtan as they go along with the parikram. At about 10 that night, I was sitting alone in front of the temple, and Bharadraj approached me. We both agreed that from all visible signs, neither the Vaidya nor the medicines had effected any significant improvement in Prabhupada's condition. Prabhupada was hinting that he would be leaving, and he would show us, as he had shown so many other things, how to depart from the world. He told us that the only medicine he wanted now was Harinam. And he wanted all of us to sit down in his room and chant Hare Krishna. Then Hamsaduta, Bharadraj, and I went to Prabhupada's room and chanted japa, while Prabhupada apparently slept. At 1:30, Prabhupada had severe pain in his left leg. After a while it subsided, but it returned at 3. Prabhupada was mourning from the pain, and the devotees present stopped their kirtan and surrounded the bed. The Kaviraj assessed the situation and recommended some procedures that gradually brought relief, and Prabhupada was able to rest again. But the attacks came again at around 6, 9, noon, and 3. Tamal Krishna worried that if the attacks continued, Prabhupada would not be able to remain with us any longer. And then Bon Maharaj, he visits Srila Prabhupada again, and Srila Prabhupada's disciples start glorifying Prabhupada and saying that he's done so much preaching. And then Bon Maharaj, he's saying that you are turning Mahaprabhu's Vani into reality. Mahaprabhu's instructions, you're turning them into reality. Through you, Mahaprabhu has done it. And then he quotes this verse from the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila. It's text number 264 of the 25th chapter. And the translation there is, to deliver all fallen souls, the Lord traveled from country to country. He personally tasted the transcendental pleasure of devotional service, and he simultaneously spread the cult of devotion everywhere. So Bon Maharaj is saying that Lord Chaitanya, he's spreading devotional service everywhere through you, Srila Prabhupada. Just look at what you've done. And Prabhupada says, oh, you were always encouraging me. And Bon Maharaj says, if you remember from the beginning, I would tell you that if you know English, then you should go abroad to America. Everything is Bhagavan's mercy. He has done this work through you. And he says, your books are the real contribution. You were able to do so many shastras, and that will remain intact forever, will live forever. And then Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they're explaining that all the Russian universities ordered Prabhupada's books. And again, when I was hearing Radhakund Mataji speak, she was just expressing that Prabhupada went to Russia once and he just spoke to one person, that person became a devotee, and now look at Russia. How many devotees are there in Russia? So many. This Prabhupada, he just went there one time and spoke to that one person, and then after that, Krishna consciousness in Russia became so powerful. And then they were looking at the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bon Maharaj was appreciating how everything in the Bhagavatam was super excellent. The way that it was printed even was just so wonderful, and he was admiring the Bhagavatam. Later, Bon Maharaj commented how wonderful it was that Prabhupada was in such perfect consciousness, and I had to agree. I was amazed that in the face of excruciating pain and imminent death, he was still preaching, sharing with his godbrother the accomplishments of the movement and his enthusiasm for spreading Krishna consciousness. The next day, Prabhupada was withdrawn. A little after sunrise, Bharadraj saw him lift his hand as if motioning to someone to halt, to wait. It was an enigmatic gesture, and Bharadraj was struck by it. He had never seen Prabhupada communicate with anyone who was not visible. But he believed that Prabhupada was responding to something he was seeing, and he imagined that perhaps the Vishnu Dutas had come. Around noon, Bharadraj heard Prabhupada begin to make the sound that people make at the end of life when the soul is about to leave, what Prabhupada called the gong gong sound, but it was more internal, like a hum sound, and sometimes longer. And he realized that Prabhupada would soon leave. He was simultaneously trying to understand what he was witnessing and what he, as a servant, should do. He remembered that Prabhupada had been saying that he wanted to hear chanting, and so he began singing Jayadev Goswami's prayer to Lord Nrsingadev, which Srila Prabhupada had introduced in the early days of the movement as a prayer for the protection of the spiritual master. Tavakara kamalavare nakamat bhuta shringam Talita hiranyakashipu tanubringam Keshavadrita narahari rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. "O my Lord, your hands are very beautiful, like the lotus flower. But with your long nails you have ripped apart the wasp Hiranyakashipu. Unto you, Lord of the universe, do I offer my humble obeisances." Okay, we'll end off there for today. And before I ask you for your questions and comments, I have two simple questions for you. Who here would like to go back to Godhead at the end of this life? Thank you. Okay. Few. Who is going on book distribution today? Then your desire will be fulfilled, because Srila Prabhupada said that whoever distributes my books, I personally guarantee that you will go back to Godhead at the end of this life, and there's no doubt about that. He said that. So all glories to the Sankirtan devotees, all glories to you, and all glories to our spiritual masters. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments or corrections? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Transcendental book distribution ki jai. Transcendental prasadam distribution ki jai. Gaur Pramanande Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you.